Sarah, they've named Robert Card as a person of interest, saying he's armed and dangerous. What else do we know about him and about the police operation?
Well, the scary thing, Mariella, is that Robert Card is still at large. So people in Maine woke up this morning to a lockdown. Many stores are shut. People are not venturing onto the street because this guy is roaming around with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, the sort of weapon of choice of mass shooters, it seems, and has already killed a large number of people. You're right that casualties have been put at 16. Other people have put them as high as 22. There are certainly an awful lot of wounded as well. So this is a very grim situation. Robert Card, it appears, was a firearms instructor with a background in the army, which is also, worrying because he knows how to use that weapon.
Indeed. And what about in terms of where the shootings took place?
Well, the rampage, if it was indeed by Card, who police have named as a suspect, started at a bowling alley at about 7 p.m. last night, where inevitably there were a lot of young people, including teenagers who police have not given out any names yet, but we believe they're among the casualties. And this was a terrifying scene at the bowling alley, called the Spare Time Bowling Alley, a place where you go to relax, but people ended up hiding even among, behind the pins, among the machinery at the back of the hall. Really awful. From there, the gunman made his way to a bar and restaurant where he opened fire again, and then he fled. Maine, as you say, is a sort of backwater. It's a sort of coastal state, very heavily forested, 80% forest. We don't know if he's lurking in one of the small towns or whether he's, gone into the undergrowth, but he has disappeared, and that's very concerning for police and everybody in Maine.
And we don't know what his grievance was, but he does have a history, I gather, of mental illness.
Yes, he was sectioned only briefly for a couple of weeks last summer, I believe. But it does raise the question of how someone like him can have all these weapons. But I guess or at least one very deadly one. But as a firearm instructor, he probably, was considered a very responsible gun owner. And in fact, he
Indeed.
once
Mm.
liked a post, on social media by a right-wing commentator saying it's people, not guns that kill. So why, there shouldn't be gun control. But of course, in his hands, the gun has become a very deadly weapon indeed.
Indeed, and you'd think you'd take someone's mental health into consideration when you sell them a weapon that can kill many people. I think it's now over 300 mass shootings this year in America, classified as more than 4 people dying. And, as always, this will start the debate again about gun control. Is there any likelihood of it ever changing?
Well, Joe Biden has said he hasn't given up on limiting weapons, but quite honestly, he doesn't have a majority in Congress, and he's very stymied on this issue. He can do a few minor things by executive power, but in the hands of a particularly conservative Supreme Court as well, any prospect of gun legislation in America is for the birds at the moment. I mean, any serious reform that would and as far as we can tell, America remains as bitterly polarized on this issue as so many others, an almost kind of 50-50 split. So I don't see any meaningful reform in the short term. In fact, I wonder whether this is even going to be heavily debated as an issue in the coming days, because the American people have become so used to these mass shootings now as the so-called inevitable price of the freedom to have a weapon. So, well, we'll see.